tusipoteze imani. Let us not lose hope in our country.
Hey everyone.
Imani, we are a country that is built on resilience. Hizi shida zote tuko nazo hapa, tushikane sisi wote. Siku hiyo ikifika tutavuka hiyo daraja. Allow me na munipe ruhusa niongee na Wakenya kutoka kaunti zote za Kenya. Mtanipea nafasi hiyo?
So you're trying to get a quick handle on the Kenyan political scene, maybe figure out what Fred Matiang'I is really up against for 2027.
Yeah, lots of talk, but what are the actual roadblocks?
Exactly. We've been looking at some commentary, specifically a YouTube analysis, that really digs into the challenges he might face if he decides to run for president.
It lays out quite a few hurdles.
It does. So our aim here isn't just to skim the surface. We want to give you a proper deep dive, a clear picture of the big obstacles highlighted in this analysis.
Right, moving past just the headlines and looking at the sort of structural stuff.
Yeah.
The political landscape itself.
Okay, so let's jump in. The first point they raise is this idea of beginner's syndrome. Now, Matiang'i's held some major cabinet posts, hasn't he?
He absolutely has. Very high-profile ones.
So why call him a novice when it comes to a presidential run? Seems a bit odd.
Well, it's a fair question.
Wow.
But the analysis suggests that running a ministry, even a powerful one, is fundamentally different from running a national presidential campaign. Now, think about it. Governing is about implementation, policy, working within, an existing structure. Campaigning for president, that's about mass mobilization, nationwide fundraising, huge-scale stuff, and crafting this, really compelling story that connects with millions of different people.
Ah, okay. So different skill set entirely.
The source noted he gets quite enthusiastic at smaller gatherings, which is great, but scaling that up, handling the really big national issues under campaign pressure, that's the unknown. He'd likely need a team full of people who've actually run presidential races before.
Right, seasoned campaigners. Okay, that makes sense. It's not just about being known, it's about knowing how to run.
Precisely.
Then there's the second point, the small stronghold. His main support base is apparently in Kisii.
Yes, the analysis estimates that around 900,000 voters, which is a, solid base.
But in a national election, is that enough to really launch from? Especially when you compare to others.
Well, that's the crux of the numerical challenge, they point out. When you look at potential rivals, like, say, Kalonzo Musyoka or President Ruto, their traditional strongholds are significantly larger.
Okay.
So starting from that 900,000 base, while valuable, means he has a much bigger gap to close to get national traction. It requires a huge strategic effort to build alliances and appeal way beyond that core region.
It puts him at a disadvantage from the get-go, numerically speaking. He needs to build bridges fast.
Exactly. Big time.
Which kind of leads into the next issue, the lack of unity within the opposition. It sounds like not everyone is on the same page over there.
Yeah, the commentary really highlighted this. It seems there isn't one single coherent opposition strategy right now.
Any examples?
Well, it mentioned Uhuru Kenyatta might see Matiang'I as perhaps a way to revive the Jubilee Party's fortunes, particularly in Mount Kenya.
Okay, so Uhu has his own agenda.
Potentially. And then you have someone like Gachagua, who, if he doesn't run himself, might prefer, let's say, a candidate he feels is more manageable, less of a direct threat, perhaps.
Ah, so competing interests within the potential opposition camp.
Right. And when you have those internal divisions, those different aims, it makes it really hard for any candidate, including Matiang'I, to emerge as the clear, unified choice. It weakens the whole front.
Like trying to herd cats, maybe?
Something like that, yeah. It complicates things immensely for someone trying to build consensus.
And speaking of complicating things, the Kalonzo factor. Kalonzo Musyoka, he's made some moves recently.
He has. Specifically, the analysis points to him taking the chairperson seat in the opposition coalition.
And that's significant because?
Because symbolically and often practically, the chairperson role holds real clout. It signals leadership, seniority.
Yeah.
Kalonzo is a veteran. He's run before. He knows the game.
So him taking that seat is like staking a claim.
It's definitely interpreted that way in the commentary. A way of saying, I'm still a major player here, maybe the major player. It asserts his seniority and his potential claim to be the coalition's frontrunner.
Which obviously makes things trickier for a newer face like Matiang'I wanting that same spot.
Absolutely. It adds another layer of internal competition.
Okay, let's shift focus a bit to the past. The commentary talks about Uhuru regime baggage. Matiang'I was a key figure in that government.
A very prominent one, yes. Interior CS for a long time, among other roles.
So how does that play out now? Is it a positive or a negative?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's likely both. The successes of the Uhuru administration, people might credit him for some of those.
But the failures and controversies stick too.
Exactly. Any unresolved issues or perceived missteps from that era could be laid at his feet. The source specifically brought up the River Yala incidents, for example.
Ah, right. Those remain sensitive.
Very.
Yeah.
And it's a contrast to President Ruto, whose current challenges, like the issues with Generation Z abductions mentioned, are happening now on his watch. For Matiang'I, it's about how effectively he can address things linked to the past while still trying to offer a vision for the future.
It's a real balancing act. He can't erase the past, but he needs to convince people he's the future.
Precisely. He needs a narrative that acknowledges it, but isn't solely defined by it. Transparency on some of those past issues, maybe under new leadership, could be key.
Okay. Now, no discussion of Kenyan politics is complete without talking about Raila Odinga, the Raila factor. The analysis calls him a professor of politics.
Yeah, that's a fitting description, I think. His influence is just undeniable, built over decades. He's a master strategist.
So his endorsement, or lack of one, how much does it matter?
According to this analysis, potentially everything. It's seen as possibly decisive.
Really? That's significant.
The commentary used these hypotheticals. Imagine Raila saying, Ruto Tosha, Ruto is enough. Or imagine him saying, Matiang'I Kosha.
Wow. Yeah, that would completely reshape the race.
It really could. His word carries immense weight with a huge block of voters. So who he aligns with, or even if he stays neutral, will be watched incredibly closely. He's the kingmaker, or perhaps still the king, depending on how things play out.
A true political heavyweight. Okay, one last hurdle mentioned. The Gachagua case. There's legal cloud there.
Yes. Regarding his eligibility to run in 2027, there's a Supreme Court decision pending.
And how does that impact Matiang'I?
Well, the analysis suggests that if the court rules in favor of Gachagua, allowing him to run,
Then what?
then it could solidify the current political alignments, potentially making it harder for new alliances to form. It might squeeze the space available for someone like Matiang'I, maybe limiting his potential influence to, say, fewer counties than he might hope for.
So a legal ruling could have major political ripple effects.
Absolutely. It adds a huge element of uncertainty into the mix for everyone planning for 2027. It could really shake things up or lock them down.
Okay, so pulling it all together.
Yeah.
Wow. For Matiang'I, it looks like quite the obstacle course. You've got the lack of direct presidential campaign experience.
The Gitter syndrome.
The relatively small starting base compared to rivals.
The numerical challenge.
A potentially divided opposition with its own internal power plays, including Kalonzo.
Lack of unity and the veterans gambit.
The baggage, good and bad, from the previous administration.
The weight of the past.
The huge influence of Raila Odinga hanging over everything.
The kingmaker shadow, definitely.
And this pending Supreme Court case as a legal wild card.
It's a formidable list.
It really is. So this deep dive, based on that commentary, paints a picture of significant headwinds for Matiang'I.
It certainly does. It highlights that ambition alone isn't enough. It's going to take, masterful strategy, maybe some luck, and perhaps shifts in those dynamics we've talked about.
Makes you think, doesn't it? Looking at all those hurdles, the experience gap, the numbers, the opposition dynamics, Raila, the court case, what single factor do you, listening right now, think will be the absolute most critical one in determining Fred Matiang'I's political path forward? It's a complex puzzle.